Hi everyone, it's Stephanie here with the week 5 discussion. So I wanted to start this week by obviously introducing the text that I read, Invention of Decolonization by Todd Shepard, The Anatomy of Fascism by Robert Paxton, Dancing in the Blood, which was our required reading by Edward Dickinson, and The Last Utopia, A History of Human Rights by Samuel Moyn. I started the assignment with some difficulty. This is my first semester, first class. Historiography, like a few of you have mentioned in your discussions, is a little intimidating. I'm having a hard time kind of wrapping my mind around what is historiography and methodology, and how to kind of build those skills within this class. So I really liked Sunshine's metaphor of feeling a little out to sea. I too am feeling a little out to sea. I initially misinterpreted the assignment and chose texts from across the entire course, so from different time periods, which after talking to Dr. Casey, decided to backtrack on and choose just texts within obviously one time period. So I went back and chose those 4 texts about the most recent time period that we're learning about. I'm a little stuck on ideas that I want to do. I like the idea of revolutions. And so the Algerian Revolution, that's what the decolonization book is about. Fascism and its rise and how it led to World War II, I thought could fit in there. And then also the Cultural Revolution of the Dancing in the Blood, which is about modern dance and like cultural reform in the eve of the First World War. This one, The Last Utopia, kind of like it spans the course of human rights and kind of their development, and some difficulties in trying to get human rights into play throughout the last 4 or 5 centuries. So this one is almost like overarching these 3 books, which is where I'm kind of struggling with, like, how can I fit this one into my paper. I was also thinking about maybe doing kind of the theme of an identity crisis. So I liked what the decolonization book talked about. Amputating colonies from body politic is one of the phrases from that book. And then the Dancing in the Blood could kind of tie in with cultural reform and the rise of modernity in Europe in the 20th century, which kind of falls under that idea of an identity crisis. And then the fascism book could kind of look at, in terms of an identity crisis, varying governments and what actually ends up taking over in Europe, like what form of government takes over in Europe at the time. But I also was toying with the idea of doing a paper kind of centered around the theme of human rights, how they were violated and how they evolved in the 20th century, or kind of the denial of rights to, I don't like the word minority, but kind of the outlier, right? So like denying the outlier human rights. So in this case, Algerians, Jews, women, again, this one being kind of the outlier. So if anyone has any ideas on how I could incorporate that, that would be really helpful. And I know some of you had said you're struggling, particularly those of you looking at books during the late antiquity period with Rome, The Fate of Rome being kind of the outlier book because he looks more so at the environmental factors. I'm leaning towards, in terms of the article that Dr. Casey posted, the 4 ways to tackle historiography essays. I'm kind of looking at the last 2, that thematic approach is where I'm leaning. I did like from the article, it said it would make more sense to talk about the different kinds of information one can extract from each of these sources and how they may complement or undermine each other. That was the 3rd approach given, which looks at different aspects of the problem. So I'm leaning towards tackling my essay in one of those 2 ways, as opposed to the historiographical evolution or the rival schools. That was number 1 and number 2 on that essay that Dr. Casey posted. I like what Bryce said about, you said having different texts with different methods to analyze history. That kind of helped clarify historiography a little bit for me. And so I guess my what comes next is obviously finalizing my topic and starting to write. Some of you said just like, you just got to plunge in. So I think I'm just going to have to do that, because if I sit there and think about it and sit there and stare at a blank screen, that's not going to work. I'm going to reread, like what Kyle said, reread the intros and conclusions of all of the books again, just to kind of refresh my mind. And that's where I'm at. feel like I'm floating a little bit in the ether, so if anyone has any advice, that'd be super helpful. Or if anyone has an idea for those 4 books or how to incorporate the Outlier book, that would also be helpful. So I'm also like, I think Kyle had said he was in Chicago all week. I'm in Portland all week. So I'm going to be trying to balance being out of town and writing the essay. So fingers crossed. Everyone have a great Thanksgiving. And I will talk to everyone soon. Bye.